We've all heard it. Turkey makes you sleepy because it's full of tryptophan. Sounds logical. Tryptophan makes serotonin. Serotonin makes melatonin. Melatonin makes sleep. Case closed. Right? Wrong. In reality, a high-protein meal like turkey actually reduces the amount of tryptophan that reaches your brain, and that's just the first paradox. Today is a short masterclass on l-tryptophan, why it sometimes works, why it sometimes fails, and why in the wrong conditions your body can turn it into something inflammatory instead of calming. If you've tried tryptophan and felt nothing or even felt worse, this video explains exactly why. Before we dive in, a quick but critical disclaimer. I am not a doctor. This video is for educational purposes only. We are discussing l-tryptophan as a standalone supplement. We are not discussing combining it with prescription medications. If you take SSRIs, combining them with tryptophan can cause serotonin syndrome, a potentially life-threatening condition. Do not mix them. Do not stop your medication. Talk to your doctor, not the internet. Your health and safety are the absolute priority. Okay, let's start with the ideal scenario. The way this is supposed to work. You take l-tryptophan. It enters your bloodstream, makes its way to the brain, and meets an enzyme called tryptophan hydroxylase. This enzyme is the first step, converting tryptophan into a new compound called 5-HTP. From there, another enzyme steps in and converts 5-HTP into serotonin, your primary mood-stabilizing neurotransmitter. It's what helps you feel calm, content, and socially confident. Later on, your body can take that serotonin and convert it into melatonin, your sleep signal. When this whole assembly line is working perfectly, your mood stabilizes, anxiety drops, your perception of pain can soften, and sleep improves significantly. It's a beautiful system, but this system is fragile. Here's where most people get it wrong. Only about 1 to 3% of the tryptophan you get from your diet ever becomes serotonin. So where does the other 97+% go? It goes down a completely different road called the Kinerian pathway. Now, this is a normal process your liver uses to make other important things, like niacin and energy. But under conditions of chronic stress, high cortisol, or systemic inflammation, that pathway gets hijacked. An enzyme called IDO switches on and aggressively starts diverting tryptophan away from that nice, calming serotonin pathway. Instead, it shunts it down this other route, eventually producing a compound called quinolinic acid. And quinolinic acid is neurotoxic. So, if you're chronically inflamed and stressed out, taking more tryptophan may not improve your mood at all. It may actually just fuel more brain inflammation. This is exactly why the advice to just take more is terrible advice. You have to understand the context of your own body. Now let's solve the turkey paradox. Why doesn't eating a bunch of turkey make you feel calm and sleepy? Tryptophan can't just walk into the brain on its own. It needs a special transporter, like a taxi, called the Large Neutral Amino Acid Transporter, or LNAA for short. The problem is, it has to share that taxi with bigger, stronger amino acids like tyrosine, phenylalanine, leucine, and when you eat protein-heavy foods like turkey, steak, or a protein shake, all of those other amino acids flood the system and essentially push tryptophan out of line for the transporter. They get all the seats on the bus. That's why, if you want the mental and calming effects of tryptophan, it must be taken on an empty stomach. If you take it with a high-protein meal, you're essentially wasting your money. But there is a smart workaround to this problem. Insulin. A small amount of carbohydrates triggers an insulin release from your pancreas. Insulin's job is to pull nutrients out of the bloodstream and into your cells. It pulls those competing amino acids out of the blood and into your muscles, but it leaves tryptophan behind. With all the competition suddenly gone, tryptophan gets a clear, first-class ticket right into the brain. That is why many effective protocols you will see will pair tryptophan with a small amount of juice or another simple carb source, not just plain water. It's a biological hack to clear the path. This brings up a common question. Why not just skip tryptophan and take 5-HTP instead? Because 5-HTP skips a critical regulatory step. Think of tryptophan as a tortoise and 5-HTP as a hare. 5-HTP is one step closer to serotonin, so it bypasses the body's natural checks and balances. It basically forces serotonin production whether your brain needs it or not. For some people, that can cause anxiety, jitters, or a weird, wired feeling. Tryptophan, on the other hand, is rate limited. Your body controls how much gets converted. If your serotonin levels are already adequate, the conversion process slows down. It has a built-in safety valve. This makes tryptophan the gentler and often safer option, especially for long-term use or for individuals who are sensitive to supplements. So, does it actually work? Let's look at the evidence. For sleep, the evidence is pretty strong. Multiple studies show that taking 1 to 2 grams reduces sleep latency. That's the time it takes you to fall asleep, and improves overall sleep quality. Without the groggy hangover you can get from sedatives, it creates a natural feeling of drowsiness, not a forced sedation. For mood, the evidence is a bit more subtle. In healthy adults, or those with mild mood dips, doses of 1 to 3 grams per day have been shown to improve social confidence and reduce irritability. But for severe, clinical depression, tryptophan alone is not a cure. It should be seen as a support tool, never as a replacement for professional medical treatment. And remember, tryptophan doesn't work alone. It needs help from essential cofactors. Think of them as the team that makes the whole process happen. First up is vitamin B6, specifically in its active form, P5P. This is the ignition key for converting 5-HTP into serotonin. Without it, the whole pathway stalls. Next is magnesium. It's required for hundreds of enzyme functions in the body, including this one. Magnesium deficiency itself can increase anxiety, and most people don't get enough. Finally, there's iron. The very first step, converting tryptophan to 5-HTP, is iron dependent. If you're anemic or have low iron levels, taking tryptophan might not work at all. Smart protocols always address these potential deficiencies before or alongside adding tryptophan. Now, a word on safety and dosage. Back in 1989, tryptophan was banned after an outbreak of a serious condition called eosinophilia myalgia syndrome, or MSA. This was a scary situation, but a later investigation traced it back to a single contaminated batch from one specific manufacturer that was using a flawed fermentation process. It wasn't the tryptophan itself that was the problem, but a contaminant. The ban was eventually lifted, and tryptophan has been used safely for decades since. But this history underscores a critical point. Quality matters. Always buy from reputable brands that use third-party testing to ensure purity. For dosage, a general guideline for sleep is 1 to 2 grams taken on an empty stomach about 45 minutes before bed. For mild mood support, 500 milligrams to 1.5 grams daily, often in divided doses, is a common starting point. And I will say it again, never combine tryptophan with antidepressants without your doctor's explicit guidance. So, to wrap it all up, tryptophan isn't just some turkey folklore. It's a tightly regulated biochemical precursor. It only works when transport, inflammation, stress levels, and your cofactor status are all properly aligned. And if your issue isn't really low serotonin, but instead low motivation, low drive, and a lack of focus, then you might be looking at the wrong pathway entirely. That sounds more like dopamine. I break that system down in my deep dive on DLPA right here. Click that, and I'll see you in the next video.